You know, usually when we sit down to talk about Hollywood drama, it feels a little bit like eating cotton candy. It's sweet, it's colorful, it dissolves the second it hits your tongue.
Right. It's fun, but it's not exactly substantial.
Exactly. It's who unfollowed who on Instagram or who looked awkward standing next to their co-star on a red carpet. It's popcorn, but let's be honest, it's usually pretty shallow.
Yeah.
But today we are looking at something completely different. We are not looking at a tabloid story. We are looking at a forensic accounting of a total corporate collapse.
We really are. And I think that distinction is vital right off the bat. If you strip away the famous faces, if you just for a second take away the glamorous gowns and the red carpets, what we have here is a Harvard Business School case study in failed governance.
Oh, absolutely.
It's about what happens when a workplace has absolutely zero independent checks on power.
Exactly. We are diving into the massive, messy, and frankly, kind of terrifying release of hundreds of pages of unsealed court documents, text messages, and legal filings surrounding the production of the film It Ends With Us.
And if you thought the press tour was awkward, and we all remember those viral clips, wait until you hear what was happening in the encrypted group chats.
It is a fascinating case study because on the surface, you have a romantic drama about breaking the cycle of abuse, a story that is supposed to be about, healing and resilience.
Right. A very important topic.
A very important topic. But underneath, the documents reveal a high-stakes war over corporate governance, power dynamics, and reputation management. It's Machiavellian.
And the mission for this deep dive is pretty specific. We aren't just here to say, oh, look, they fought, that's boring. We want to decode how they fought.
Yes, the mechanics of it.
The mechanics. Because the weapons they used weren't fists or even public insults, at least not at the start.
Yeah.
They were using modern weapons like social capital, digital paranoia, and proxy wars.
It's modern warfare, Hollywood style. And to orient you, the listener, before we jump into the weeds, just imagine you're at work. Picture your normal office environment.
But your boss is also your coworker, and also the HR department, and also the guy funding your paycheck. And half the office is secretly texting the other half, plotting a literal coup to overthrow that boss.
That sounds like a nightmare.
And here's the kicker. Every single text you send, you have to write it as if a judge is going to read it aloud in court 2 years later.
That sounds absolutely exhausting. It sounds like a psychological thriller, not a workplace. I mean, how do you even get work done in that environment?
That was the reality on the set of It Ends With Us. And that is why we have these documents. This isn't just gossip. This is evidence.
So let's unpack this. We have access to leaked texts involving A-listers like Taylor Swift and Ryan Reynolds, risk analysis reports, and legal filings.
A mountain of data.
A mountain of it. And where we have to start is the structure. Because the experts seem to think this whole disaster was doomed before the cameras even rolled. They call it one film, two governments.
That's the core issue. If you look at the risk reports included in this document dump, they identify the root cause as a governance void. Specifically, a lack of independent checks on power.
Okay, let's define that for the listener. What exactly constitutes a governance void on a movie set? Because usually there's a hierarchy, right? You have the director, the producer, the studio. It's a chain of command.
Usually, yes. In a standard film production, you have a system of checks and balances, almost like a democratic government in a weird way.
Right.
The director is in charge of the creative vision. The producer manages the logistics and the budget. The studio finances it and handles HR. If the director goes off the rails, the producer steps in.
And if the producer is the problem, the studio steps in. There's always a higher power.
Ideally. But here, that structure didn't exist.
Oh.
This is where this phrase, unprecedented concentration of power, comes in. Justin Baldoni wasn't just the guy directing the movie.
No.
He was the director, he was the lead actor, he was a producer, and crucially, he was the head of the studio, Wayfarer Studios, that was financing and making the film.
Okay, so let's play that out practically. Usually, if a director is being difficult, or if you feel unsafe, or if you just disagree with a creative choice, you go to the producer or you go to the studio. You go to the adult in the room.
Exactly, you go to HR. But here, the director owned the studio. He effectively owned the HR department. So if you have a complaint about Justin the director, you have to report it to a system controlled by Justin the CEO.
That's insane.
It created what the legal filings call a legal and ethical deadlock. There was no independent authority to mediate. If you had a problem with the boss, you had to tell the boss.
That seems like a massive oversight in the contracts. How does a studio let that happen? It feels like building a house without a foundation.
Well, it happens when the financing model is independent. Wayfarer was putting up the money. And when you write the check, you make the rules. But what they didn't anticipate was that the star they hired, Blake Lively, was powerful enough to reject those rules.
Right. She wasn't just an employee.
She was a massive brand in her own right.
Which explains why things got so messy so fast. If you can't go to HR, and you can't go to the boss, you go rogue.
You create your own government.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what Blake Lively did. She didn't just act in the film, she established a rival power center. The sources describe it as shadow management.
Shadow management. That sounds like something out of a spy novel or a geopolitical conflict. The shadow government.
That's what it was.
So what does that actually look like on a film set? Is it just people whispering in corners?
It's subtle at first, and then it becomes overt. It means the call sheet says one thing, but the reality on set is another. It means crew members are receiving instructions from the director and then receiving counter-instructions from the star immediately after.
Oh, wow.
Because she couldn't rely on the official hierarchy, she created a parallel one. The documents show that the cast and crew were essentially forced to pick sides. It wasn't just a creative disagreement, it was a loyalty test.
It's civil war.
It was. Lively, along with her husband Ryan Reynolds, effectively neutralized Baldoni's authority on his own set.
So you have two captains trying to steer the ship in different directions. That usually ends with the ship hitting an iceberg.
Or ripping in half.
And this is where it gets really interesting and honestly a little dark. We're not just talking about we don't like his direction. The language found in these texts is extreme. They weren't calling him annoying. They were using words like cult.
That word comes up repeatedly. Cult and supervillains.
There's this specific chain of texts where Blake Lively is messaging Matt Damon and Ben Affleck. Now, let's just pause there for a second. The fact that she is texting Damon and Affleck about this shows the level of shadow management we're dealing with. She is bringing in heavy hitters. This isn't texting your mom to vent.
This is a power network.
Yeah.
And she describes Baldoni's team as supervillains. She literally tells them that the film is being funded by cult money.
Cult money. That is a very specific, very damaging accusation. Is there any evidence in the docs to support that, or is this just rhetoric?
We have to be precise here. The documents don't validate the claim that Wayfarer is a cult. That's not what this is about.
Okay.
However, that isn't the point of the text. The point is the framing. She was framing the narrative for her allies. By labeling Baldoni's studio as a cult, she was delegitimizing his entire business to her peers.
She's poisoning the well.
She was effectively saying, this isn't a normal studio, these aren't normal people, so the normal rules of professional courtesy don't apply.
It dehumanizes them in a corporate sense.
Exactly. And in those same texts, she tries to align herself with Matt Damon's company, Artist Equity. She refers to them as the good cult alternative.
So it's my cult is better than your cult.
In a way. But strategically, look at what she is doing. She was trying to pull the production away from Baldoni's sphere of influence and into the orbit of her A-list friends.
Right.
She was signaling to Damon and Affleck, I need rescuing from these villains, and you guys are the heroes. Yeah. It's a classic damsel in distress narrative, but weaponized for a corporate takeover.
It effectively rallies the troops. You aren't just asking for editing advice. You're asking for a rescue mission. Save me from the bad guys.
Precisely. It raises the stakes emotionally for everyone involved. If you convince Ben Affleck that you are trapped in a movie funded by cult money, he is going to be a lot more willing to step in and help you fight.
And that takeover wasn't just theoretical. It got very real in the editing room. This brings us to section 2 of our deep dive, the bake-off.
The bake-off. It sounds like a nice, vivid image, like a cooking show, maybe the Great British Bake-Off. But in Hollywood, it's a brutal process.
Yeah, it's not scones and tea cakes.
No. It's when a studio has 2 different cuts of a movie, 2 different versions, and they test them against each other with audiences to see which one wins.
Is that common? I feel like we hear about director's cuts all the time, but usually years later on a Blu-ray or something.
It happens when a studio loses faith in a director, or when a star has final cut privilege in their contract. But according to the documents, this wasn't exactly a fair fight.
No, so.
Well, the resource disparity was staggering. Baldoni, as the director and studio head, had access to the footage and the editing room since July. He had months to refine his vision, work with the editor, smooth out the pacing, get the music right.
And Blake.
Blake Lively was given 10 days.
10 days! To edit a whole movie? I can't even organize my photo album in 10 days.
It's an impossibly short window. 10 days to create a rival cut that could beat the director's cut in a blind test. Now, usually that's impossible. You need to ingest footage, sync sound, cut scenes, color grade.
It's a Herculean task.
It is. But this is where we see the lengths Lively was willing to go to. She admitted in the texts to rewriting the entire script during production and essentially directing the movie through what she called a dubious director.
Okay, so she's already doing his job behind his back.
But to win the bake-off in 10 days, she had to break protocol in a major way.
This is the part that blew my mind. We're talking about the hack, and we need to be careful with that word, but that is effectively what the security team called it, right?
Yes. It was flagged as a security breach. To get help with her cut, Lively needed eyes on the footage. She needed feedback from people she trusted, specifically Matt Damon and Ben Affleck, who are Oscar-winning filmmakers.
Sure.
She needed them to look at her cut and tell her how to make it better than Baldoni's. But she couldn't just email the movie files.
Right, piracy risks. You can't just transfer a blockbuster movie.
Exactly. Industry footage is stored on encrypted, secure servers. One of the industry standards is a service called PIX. It's like Netflix, but with military-grade security. You need a specific account, a password, and usually a two-factor authentication code that changes every 30 seconds.
So how did Damon and Affleck see it?
The documents reveal she shared her personal PIX account login and her two-factor authentication codes with them.
Wait, she gave them her 2FA codes. That's like giving someone your banking password and then texting them the code the bank sends you.
It's a massive security violation. In a normal corporate environment, that is grounds for immediate termination. If you did that at a bank or a tech company, you'd be fired before lunch.
No question.
But it shows the level of desperation and the by any means necessary attitude. She needed Ben Affleck and Matt Damon to secretly watch the footage, what they called the shadow edit, so they could advise her on how to beat Baldoni within that 10-day window.
That is wild. It's corporate espionage, but from the inside. She was leaking her own movie to win the argument. But Baldoni wasn't just sitting back letting this happen, right? The sources mentioned some retaliation involving the editing software itself.
This is where it turns into a spy versus spy scenario. The counter-accusation in the files is that Baldoni, realizing he was losing control, secretly accessed Lively's Avid sessions.
Okay, help us out. What is Avid?
Avid Media Composer is the industry-standard software used to edit films. It's where the actual cutting happens. If PIX is the screening room, Avid is the workbench.
Got it.
The claim is that Baldoni was logging into her sessions to see exactly what she was changing.
So he was spying on her edit.
Allegedly. The implication is he wanted to see her changes, maybe to steal her ideas or just to monitor the rebellion. If she cut a scene a certain way and it worked, he could theoretically replicate it in his cut. Or he just wanted to know what he was up against.
It's so dysfunctional. You have the star hacking the security to show the movie to Batman, and the director hacking the software to spy on the star.
And the risk here, for the listener who loves movies, is something called the Frankenstein cut.
Frankenstein cut. I assume that's as ugly as it sounds.
It is. When you have two warring visions, stitching a movie together, dragging pieces from one edit to another out of spite or competition, or trying to merge two totally different tones, you usually end up with a monster.
A movie that makes no sense?
A movie that makes no sense tonally. It's a miracle the film was coherent at all. You have one person trying to make a dark drama about abuse, and another person trying to make a romantic comedy, and they're stealing footage from each other.
It really is incredible. It made it to theaters. But the war wasn't just fought with editing software and passwords. It was fought with people. Famous people. Let's talk about Section 3, weaponizing the network.
This is what we call the social validation attack.
Social validation attack. I like that term. It sounds clinical. Break that down for us.
It's a psychological tactic. Lively used her famous friends not just for emotional support, but as tactical weapons to gaslight and pressure Baldoni. She leveraged their status to override his authority. And the prime example of this is the Taylor Swift incident.
Oh, we have to talk about the Taylor Swift incident. This scene feels like it was written for a drama about Hollywood power plays. It's almost Shakespearean.
So, paint the scene. Lively invites Taylor Swift to her apartment. Justin Baldoni is there, presumably to discuss the script or the edit.
Okay.
Now remember, Baldoni is the director. In theory, his opinion is the only one that matters regarding the final product. But Lively has rewritten scenes that Baldoni hasn't approved or maybe doesn't like.
Okay. The tension must have been thick enough to cut with a knife.
So Lively asks Taylor Swift to read the pages. And then she asks Swift to pretend she loves them in front of Baldoni.
Wait, explicitly to pretend she scripted the reaction?
According to the documents, yes.
Yeah.
The goal was to create an illusion of elite consensus. Think about the psychology. You are Justin Baldoni. You are fighting for your creative vision.
Yeah.
And suddenly, Taylor Swift, the biggest star on the planet, the greatest storyteller, as Lively calls her, looks you in the eye and says, "This is genius."
You crumble. You have to. If you disagree with Taylor Swift in that moment, you look like an idiot. You look like you don't understand art.
Exactly. Lively referred to Baldoni as a clown in her texts. The strategy was, if the queen says it's good, the clown has to agree. It's a way to force his hand without having a screaming match. It's weaponized social pressure.
Oh my God.
You leverage someone with higher status to crush the person with lower status.
That is incredibly manipulative. Effective, but manipulative. It's using friendship as a bludgeon.
And it backfired, in a way. Or at least it revealed Baldoni's strategic weakness. Yep. Let's talk about the song My Tears Ricochet.
Right, the trailer song. That was a huge moment for the marketing. It set the tone for the whole campaign.
Taylor Swift herself, in the leaked texts, noted that Baldoni was not strategic for allowing this. Lively wanted to use Swift's song in the trailer. Baldoni said, yes, probably thinking.
Great. Taylor Swift music helps the movie. That's millions of dollars in free marketing.
Exactly what he thought. And commercially, it does. It brings in the Swifties. It makes the trailer go viral.
But politically, inside the studio politics, it was a disaster for him. Swift saw right through it.
Oh, yeah.
By letting Lively use the song, he accidentally signaled to the world, and crucially to the studio executives at Sony, that Lively had the creative power. It showed she had the A-list backing.
It effectively handed her the moral high ground and the marketing narrative before the movie even opened.
He thought he was getting a hit song. He was actually signing his own resignation letter from the power structure. He validated her shadow government.
Precisely. It confirmed that the real power lay with Lively and her connections, not with the director and his studio. It made him look like he was just along for the ride.
And we can't forget Ryan Reynolds in all this. He wasn't just the supportive husband making jokes on TikTok. The documents describe him as the power broker.
Yeah, the sources say he was leaking negative info.
He was instrumental in isolating Baldoni. He was allegedly sharing details about Baldoni's behavior, specifically regarding weight comments, which we'll get to ensure that Baldoni had no allies left.
So he's working the phones.
He was calling agents, calling publicists, ensuring that the narrative was set in stone before Baldoni could even speak. He was essentially running a political campaign against the director.
Wow.
So we've got the structural collapse, the editing war, and the weaponized friendships. But why was everyone so angry? I mean, besides the power struggle, Section 4 talks about the toxic workplace, and the accusations against Baldoni are pretty specific. It wasn't just, we hate his creative vision.
No, it was personal. And it's important to note, this wasn't just Blake Lively being difficult. The clown narrative came from multiple sources.
Right, Jenny Slate. She was in the movie, she played the sister. She's usually known for being pretty chill and funny.
Jenny Slate sent texts calling Baldoni a clown and a narcissist. She described the set as disgusting.
Oof. Disgusting is a strong word for a film set. Usually you hear difficult or intense. Disgusting implies something visceral.
And then there's Liz Plank. She's a journalist, and she used to co-host a podcast with Baldoni.
With Baldoni himself.
Yes. And she admitted that working on his set was one of the worst days of her life.
That's damaging because these aren't people with a massive financial stake in taking over the movie like Lively. These are his peers. Liz Plank was his co-host. That implies a betrayal of trust.
And this leads to the core accusation, performative allyship.
Can you explain that for the listener? We hear that term a lot, but what does it mean in this context?
Justin Baldoni has built his entire brand on being a male feminist. He has a podcast called Man Enough. He talks about vulnerability, respecting women, deconstructing toxic masculinity. He's written books on it.
He's made it his whole identity.
He frames himself as the antithesis of the typical Hollywood power player.
So the cognitive dissonance here is huge.
Huge. The cast accused him of saying all the right things into a microphone, but acting completely differently when the cameras were off. They claim he was a performative ally, using feminism as a marketing tool while creating a toxic environment. It's the idea that the nice guy persona is a mask.
And the most specific example of this toxicity, the thing that really seemed to ignite the fire, is the weight comment. This seems to be the thing Ryan Reynolds and everyone latched onto.
It's the smoking gun for their argument. The allegation is that Baldoni asked Blake Lively's on-set trainer how much Lively weighed.
which is generally a no-go zone in any workplace, but especially in Hollywood with an actress. That is extremely sensitive information.
Especially because this was only 2 weeks after Lively had given birth.
Oh, wow. So she is postpartum, likely vulnerable about her body, and the director is asking for the number on the scale.
Baldoni's defense, or excuse, depending on how you view it, was that he has a history of back problems and low bone density. He claimed he was worried about injuring his back during a scene where he had to lift her.
Low bone density.
That was the phrase used.
Yeah.
To the cast, specifically Lively and Reynolds, this was seen as highly insensitive body shaming disguised as a medical concern. It became the focal point for the harassment claims.
Of course.
It validated their narrative that he wasn't this sensitive feminist guy. He was just another guy worried about his back who didn't care about the woman who just had a baby.
It reinforced the narcissist label Jenny Slate used. It made it about him and his back rather than her and her comfort.
Exactly. And then you had the paranoia on top of that, the unauthorized recordings.
This is the surveillance aspect. Baldoni was accused of recording conversations on set with his phone without consent.
This is a huge legal and ethical issue.
Why would he do that? To catch them talking about him.
Likely to protect himself. If he felt a mutiny was brewing, which it clearly was, he likely wanted evidence. He wanted proof of the shadow management. But what that does is create an atmosphere of total terror.
Right. If you think the director is recording you, you stop talking. You
Yeah.
stop collaborating. The set becomes a prison.
And in California, generally you need consent from all parties to record private conversations. So aside from being creepy, it edges into legal trouble. It solidified the cast's view that he was the villain. It turned the set into a panopticon where everyone was watching everyone.
So everyone is miserable, everyone is paranoid, and the movie is about to come out. This leads us to Section 5, the PR war. Because the fighting didn't stop when the movie wrapped, it just moved to the red carpet.
And this is where Blake Lively made a critical error. We call it lifestyle masking.
Lifestyle masking. That sounds like a marketing term.
It is. Lively has a very specific brand. It's aspirational, it's fun, it's drinks, it's hair, it's fashion. It's Gossip Girl forever.
She sells a lifestyle.
She sells a lifestyle of effortless glamour and fun.
Right. She owns a beverage company, a hair care line. She is a mogul of fun.
So when it came time to market, it ends with Us, a movie about domestic violence. She tried to apply that same brand filter. She marketed it as a floral, romantic romp. Her tagline was literally, grab your friends, wear your florals.
I remember that backlash. People were furious. They felt she was commercializing pain.
Exactly. You cannot lifestyle mask domestic abuse. It looked like she was trying to protect her aspirational brand from the dark reality of the movie's subject matter. She wanted a hit, but she didn't want the heaviness.
Right.
And the audience smelled the inauthenticity immediately. It felt tone deaf. It felt like she was trying to turn trauma into a cocktail party.
But Baldoni wasn't just sitting there taking the moral high ground quietly. The documents reveal a proxy war involving some heavy hitters in the PR world.
This is a detail that connects everything. Baldoni, realizing he was being frozen out of the press tour and painted as a villain, hired a crisis PR firm. But not just any firm. A firm connected to Scooter Braun.
Scooter Braun. As in the man who bought Taylor Swift's masters, her arch nemesis.
The very same. So now look at the board. On one side, you have Blake Lively and Taylor Swift, the most powerful alliance in pop culture. On the other side, you have Justin Baldoni hiring Scooter Braun's people.
It's like the Marvel Civil War of Hollywood feuds. It's not just about the movie anymore.
It ceased to be just actor versus actor. It became a proxy war between the two biggest feuding camps in the entertainment industry. It explains the intensity of the leaks.
Ah, of course.
Scooter Braun's team knows how to fight dirty. Taylor Swift's team knows how to fight dirty. And It Ends With Us was just the battlefield.
That explains why the leaks were so calculated. This wasn't just angry texting. This was strategic dissemination of information.
Exactly. It was a scorched earth campaign.
And the casualties were personal. We have to talk about the digital paranoia. The texts reveal that this toll wasn't just professional. It messed with their heads.
This is the saddest part of the documents, I think. Lively confessed to suffering from extreme digital paranoia. She stopped texting like a friend. She started writing texts that sounded like corporate emails sent to 200 employees.
Because she knew.
She knew they might be leaked. She knew they might end up in the New York Times, which they did.
And that cost her the friendship, or at least damaged it.
The sources say Taylor Swift felt a distance. Because how can you be best friends with someone who talks to you like a press release? The intimacy of friendship relies on privacy, When privacy is gone, intimacy dies.
That's devastating.
Lively became a robot in her own communications to survive the legal threat.
That is a chilling thought. We usually think of these stars as untouchable, but here they are, terrified to send a text message. So
Yeah.
the movie comes out, makes money, a lot of money.
Huh.
But as we wrap up, what's the verdict here? Who won?
It's a Pyrrhic victory. Do you know that term?
Winning the battle, but losing the war.
Exactly. Blake Lively won the edit. Her version was the one released in theaters. She beat the director. But look at the cost. She lost her American sweetheart image. She was exposed as a ruthless operator who will hack systems and manipulate narratives.
And Baldoni.
He lost his status as a safe director and ally. He's now viewed as unworkable by the A-list. He might have been right about the governance issues, but he lost the room. He lost the war of perception.
So what does this all mean for us, for the listener? What are the takeaways from this forensic accounting?
I think there are three big ones. First, structure matters. You cannot have the CEO and the HR department be the same person. It is a recipe for disaster.
Absolutely.
If there is no check on power, people will create their own chaotic checks. Lively's shadow management only existed because the official management was broken.
That's a lesson for any business, not just movies. If the system is broken, people will break the rules to survive. Second,
Authenticity is fragile. You can't lifestyle mask serious topics. The audience is too smart. If you try to sell domestic violence as a fun girls' night out to save your brand, you will be punished for it.
and the third.
The era of unsealed docs. This is the new reality. Assume every text you send, every joke, every vent session will one day be read by a judge, or worse, by the internet. Privacy in professional settings is dead.
That is a terrifying thought to leave on. But here's one final thing I want you to chew on as we finish. We live in a world where authenticity is the ultimate currency. We want our stars to be real. But both sides in this fight tried to manipulate the narrative so aggressively, using shadow edits, fake script readings, and leaked texts, that they ended up exposing the artificial machinery behind Hollywood.
They pulled back the curtain, and it wasn't pretty.
So if the good guys, the feminist allies,
Yeah.
and the sweethearts are using cult tactics and shadow edits to destroy each other, who is actually left to trust in the media we consume?
That is a question.
Thanks for diving deep with us. We'll see you next time.